sports industry, and it's transforming the way the athletes and the clubs are competing among this multi-billion industry. Data analysis appeared 2 decades ago to introduce us to a new stage. Data analysis is that invisible. It is the present and it is the future. And I'm sure that it will be the difference between winning and losing, surviving or disappearing. Before presenting our experts, I want to thank La Liga MX and its president, Mr. Mikel Arriola, for organizing this summit and for generating value for the sports industry. Long life for this event. And now, let's present our panelists. Let's begin with Mr. Víctor Orta. He has traveled around Europe, having great positions in several clubs, beginning with Real Valladolid, going to the great Sevilla that won the European Cup as well, moving to the Premier League and championship level over there in the English tournament. He has worked for Middlesbrough. Now he is the football director of Leeds United. Víctor Orta, welcome to this summit.
Thank you very much for inviting me. To be honest, I am in absolutely inferiority with my 2 panelists, because if any person analyze the data or analyze the future, is the baseball and the Dodgers, but I am going to try and keep my level, at least no really big gap between them and me, and explain how can I understand and how use the data and how is my project in about the analysis of data now in the context of the football, that to be honest is a challenge that we are going to fight the last 10 years. Now it's improving a lot, and now we are going to try leader a project inside Leeds United that I'm going to try share any ideas and even ask any help to the real specialists of that they create all these models in professional sport, like is the other 2 panelists. That goal today is reduce the gap between his knowledge and mine, and at least don't be really far off his interventions.
Now, it's great to have you, Victor. You have had a spectacular career, growing from being a journalist in Spain to working in agent representation and moving to clubs such as I just said, Valladolid, Sevilla, Zenit, St. Petersburg, Elche, Middlesbrough, and Leeds United. Welcome, Victor. Now, we're moving from the United Kingdom, from Leeds to California, because our next panelists work for the current world champions of Major League Baseball, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Scott Powers graduated from University of North Carolina, also University of Chicago, and has a PhD from Stanford University. He has worked around mathematics and analytics with the Oakland Athletics, AZ Alkmaar at Netherlands, and he's the current director of the quantitative analysis for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Scott, welcome to Somos Liga MX Summit.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. As Ricardo mentioned, I have some experience working in football as well, and so I appreciate how much more difficult it is to work with data analytics in football with this free-flowing game that doesn't have the same structure that makes baseball so easy to analyze. But very happy to be here, very happy to talk about baseball and football when it comes to data analysis.
Scott, thank you very much. It's a privilege for us at La Liga MX to have someone like you and someone from the Los Angeles Dodgers, which have millions of fans here in Mexico. And now, our third panelist comes from Mexico City, where he studied mathematics at the prestigious UNAM. And then he moved to New York University for his postgraduate studies. He's a Fulbright Garcia Robles Scholar and current quantity analyst for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Esteban Navarro, welcome to La Liga MX Summit.
Hola, Toño. Really happy to be here. It is truly an honor to be in this panel with 3 people that have much more experience than I do. So I completely share Victor's goal in that I'll try to not embarrass myself today with such amazing panel. But I'm very excited to tell you a little bit about what we do at the Dodgers and how we use data to evaluate play on the field.
So thank you very much, Esteban, and I'm sure that we'll receive all your knowledge in order to improve our Liga MX and to share a lot of value today. So this trip This trip along data analysis, great and best practices around the world begins in Leeds with Víctor Orta. So let's go to Leeds, let's go to United Kingdom. And please, Víctor, this stage is yours.
Okay, the first of all, like obviously we discuss, and thank you for the help, is that try understood that the football is not a sport of repetition. Like other sports, like the size of the pitch, the shape of the rival, your own shape, your position, the weather, and try make and create patterns in football is really, really difficult. But then my obsessive situation now with the data is try create contextualization. Context, like more say qualitative data, no quantitative data. How many times the old style of football criticize the data because can give a value of a pass of 2 meters without opposition and the same value and the same pass crossing a line and put another player, because at the end is one pass good, and for the efficiency of pass is the same value. And obviously this is the mistake that happened around the data, and we are growing now. I am going to share the project that we are trying to make in Leeds United. This project started leadership with Jesus Lagos from now 4 months ago, and we are trying to get any ideas of the data circumstances. If I can share my presentation, our idea is to create an index tailored for Leeds United. Today, all the ideas is generalist. I want anything exclusive. Really, the partnerships with another people from outside is really good, but they give to all the teams where you can take the advantage. Because today, you depend on the consultancies of third parties. All the people receive the same information. It's difficult to find really tailored for you. Normally, they use simple metrics, and it's assessment that the club only receive in terms of the end product. I prefer have the control exclusive of all the process. Be a product that I can use for me, my style, the style of my coach, the idea of club. Maintain the 100% list philosophy in this index, in this analysis of the player, and make the metrics really decisive in football for roles. It's not the same for a central defender, for a fullback, a striker, or midfielder. And try create all this investment in future revenues for the club. That for me is really, really relevant. What is our goal? Try create one index unique, adapt like a sporting directors and like my scouting department, and for the staff of Leeds United with a head coach, using all the staff resource that we have in the clubs. How is the works? We need to have the global data, the spatial data, the physical data, and the team from the team is recruit. We are trying to make this for match day, for monthly, and for seasons. And we are creating best 11s and generate reports for the leagues that are really relevant. For us, it's really important the definite of the roles like the data. By example, if we are trying to get a fullback, we need to create a clear idea for determine the metrics symbols and the metrics we can create a derivatives metrics. What is this? By example, we are a team offensive with Marcelo Bielsa on charts like head coach. Then we need to create idea of the what is his position is offensive decisive, what is his speed, pace, final decision, how is the idea of the aggressiveness in the pressing, how is the idea about the crosses, about the dribbling, and then you can divide the data in 2 times. One simple metrics, like we discussed, crosses, passing, shoots, expecting goal, expecting absence, and another that is the real challenge, create the derivative metrics. What is the derivative metrics? Where we determine a tactical style. This is hours of hours of hours analyzing eventing for transform the human touch in the idea of the tactical perspective of my team in a metric. By example, if how many times my fullback, when the team lose the ball in opposite pitch, recover the ball or make an interception is his own pitch. This is a tactical characteristic in our team, by example. And this kind of metrics is a lot of times discussing for the idea of the analysis of the staff and the head coach, the idea of the scouting department using the HP, the expert choice. Why? The expert choice for create ways for make ponderation of each metric. That is for me the relevant. Again, contextual, make context of the stats. It's not the same recruit for a coach like Marcelo Bielsa like another coach. It's not the same recruit for the Premier League that recruit for Spanish La Liga. And then this is really important, analyze and put the weights and review all these weights of all these circumstances in each metric. That is the part of the process that we are now. Another that is a really good idea for the person that is developed this project, the spatial index. We can watch here like idea about offensive fullback, that is the left, and another player. What we can create with that? At the end, the intervention of the player with the events can create determination tactical, because looks like it's the movement of our players, with and without the ball. Obviously, we create offensive maps, defensive and offensive heat maps of intervention, and then determine the similarity in the analysis of other players with your own player in the tactical level that we use now. Another, this is really, really easy to understand, physical index. Now we are using for the physical index skill corner. It's a platform that after 15 games and 45 minutes per game, give to you the value on the index of mistake of 2.55%. Then it's really good. At the end, this is more easy. High intensity, speed, kilometers, sprints per day, peak velocity, the classical index that we are using in physical. The other data that we are using about our provider, StatsBomb. And now we are going to try involve us in the StatsBomb 360, by the way, from America, like always. And for me, that the realistic point of view of the stats, and we have an American here, and it's true that they are understanding StatsBomb in football. What is the difference between qualitative and quantitative? And they are giving a point growing, in my opinion, in the analysis of data of football. With that, is the same play in a team like Leeds United than play in Wolfsburg or in Gladbach or in Stuttgart? It's not the same. How many similarities we have between a player that I recruit in his style of his team and my team? For me, relevant too about that. Really important, try get that. Really important, try know that, because obviously, if he's really more similar in the process of adaptation to the team, it's really realistic that we can create a participant idea of our style of football. Then, like I want to create, is like you watch here in an example like Rodrigo, data from StatsBomb in the terms of simple metrics and metrics derivative, spatial index in the idea of the eventing of each player per role, physical data in the idea of each player per game, and team similarities. With this, we are now in the difficult process to create, and obviously it's not easy, and for us, our goal is create in 1 year from now the definitive tool, because what's really difficult, how many weight can have each characteristic and each metric. This is our challenge. This is our millimetrical work to try get that now the weekends when my scouts is going to watch football live, we are going to watch 20, 25, 30 games and try and create with this index that for me is really important, try create with this index that the rest of minutes of my scouts was used to watch matches really relevant. And another thing, why don't watch 1,000 games each weekend? Why don't watch with the eye of 2,000 games around the world? This is the reason that we want to create this index. This is the reason that we analyze match days and months in the leagues. Because for us, we are going to try now the challenge about the information. Now in football, the information is easy to quick, really cheap access, and our challenge is try to convert all this information in useful knowledge for Leeds United. And then is the reason that we are going to try create this index to try give a point of view of the stats really tailorized for us and really tailorized for the football that we play and really tailorized for the league that we are, for trying minimize the risk in recruit players. I said 200 times this, and it's just people of baseball here, and obviously Moneyball made a big damage to the football, because in baseball, like they said, the kind of analysis is a bit different. Why Moneyball make damage in football? Because all the people arrive and try create the war, data and all style. The data against the human touch. This is not my theory. My theory is create a mix. When you have the scouting, you have a horizontal point of view, that is the judge of the people. When you use the data, you have a vertical point of view, not better, different. I am tired about the war, it's or data or human touch. I believe in the model mix, put together in this process, because this process is working for head coaches with level 3 of FIFA. And for me, it's really relevant. Don't create this war, because I am never going to sign a player because his Leeds United index was really high, and I am never going to sign a player without analyze his data. This is for me the model mix that I want to go. And this is for me the football need to arrive.
It's great, Victor. Victor is fantastic, all what you have shared with us. And we have a lot of points of view going from generalization to personalization. And it has been so valuable to see how you work, how you have been working with different clubs and with different managers and different styles of football. And we also have some points of debate, and that's the point, and that's what we are looking for here. Thank you, Victor. We will come back with you to Leeds in some minutes. Now we will listen to the presentation of Scott and Esteban, guys from the Los Angeles Dodgers, world champions. The stage is for you guys.
Thank you, Tonya. Pictured on the left, you see our home, Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, California. And I'd like to start this presentation with a simple introduction to the Dodgers. Could you flip the slide again? Thank you. The Dodgers are one of 30 teams in Major League Baseball, which is the largest baseball league in the United States. And this past year in 2020, as Tonio mentioned, we were fortunate enough to win our first World Series in 32 years. That's the championship of Major League Baseball. According to the most recent Forbes valuation, we are the second largest team in Major League Baseball behind the New York Yankees. And over the past 4 years, we've won more games than any other team in Major League Baseball. Pictured on the right, you see two Mexican pitchers who were particularly instrumental to our success last year in 2020. That's Julio Urias on the left and Victor Gonzalez on the right. Two other people who have been instrumental to our success over the past 4 years are Andrew Friedman and Dave Roberts. That's Andrew on the right and Dave on the left. In baseball, the responsibility of leading baseball operations is split between the president of baseball operations, who is responsible for the front office and player recruitment, and the manager, who is in uniform on the field with the players during games, leading the players and coaching. Andrew came to the Dodgers from Tampa Bay, which historically has one of the lowest payrolls every year in baseball. And he was so successful there that there was a book written about his time there called The Extra 2% by Jonah Carey. He came to the Dodgers at the end of 2014, and Dave came to the Dodgers at the end of 2015. Now let me show you the structure of the baseball operations department that these two lead. On the left, that's a diagram of the sub-departments within baseball operations. The numbers in parentheses are headcounts. As you can see, it's a very large front office. The MLB Clubhouse is the group of coaches that Dave Roberts is responsible for leading. MLB Operations is the group led by Andrew Friedman. MLB Clubhouse by providing players, helping construct the roster, and providing advanced scouting reports for opposing teams. But there are many other sub-departments within Dodgers baseball operations, the largest of which is player development, which supports the MLB Clubhouse by developing young players who can be major leaguers in the future. Medical/strength and conditioning supports both player development and the MLB Clubhouse. And then on the left side of the diagram, we've got 3 scouting departments: pro scouting, international scouting, and amateur scouting, which each support MLB operations by providing scouting reports on players who we would be considering during recruitment. The newest of these departments is R&D, research and development. And that's the group pictured on the right, collecting our World Series rings. That group has 3 subgroups: baseball systems, performance science, and quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis is the group to which Esteban and I belong. And we tend to focus on long-term data science research questions. And most of those have to do with player evaluation, which is what Esteban is going to tell you about next.
Thank you, Scott. To mention on the slide, like Victor said, that it's very much not a data versus scouting world, but more how can the organization make the best decision that it can. And that is essentially our job at the Dodgers. It is to create and develop metrics and tools that enhance the decision-making throughout the organization. And so a lot of what we do is trying to strip luck out of outcomes, determine what should have happened on the field, and of course then translate that into future performance so that the team can win games and ultimately win the World Series. So I want to walk you through an example of how we would develop a metric to value an action on the field to sort of illustrate a point that Victor was making of how hard it is to develop a metric. So this is a with runners on second and third that almost leaves the park, but is only a single because of how hard it is hit. You can see in the video, it's about like half an inch from leaving the park, but it stays fair, and then both runners score. Here's a visual depiction of the picture in case the video wasn't in good quality in the stream. So in traditional statistics, the way that we would value Blackmon's single would be by the 2 runs that he drove in with the runners on second and third. But hopefully to the audience, this feels simplistic and weird, right? This gives Blackmon the credit for the 2 runners being there. And you can see the counter example, which is if there were no runners on base, does that mean that his single is valueless? And of course, the answer is no, because he could then score if another player drives him in. So I want to show you an evaluation tool that we have, which is a Run Expectancy Matrix. So what we do is we take all the possible combinations of men on base in an inning, and then we check how many times or how many runs that that combination of runners on the base score in that inning. And we do that for 5 years. And that gives us sort of a expectation of, on average, how many runs will be scored when there's certain runners on base. So for example, with no outs and runners on second and third, we would expect 2.06 runs to score. So you can see how, because there's already a high expectancy of the runners scoring, that assigning 2 runs of value to Blackmon is too much. And then Blackmon will be on first afterwards. So we also want to quantify how often he would score. And that is on average 0.95 runs with a runner on first and no outs. So this gives us a better tool to evaluate Blackmon's single, which is the value of the 2 runs that actually scored minus the transition on the bases, so that instead of valuing the single at 2 runs, we're now valuing it at 0.89. Of course, that is giving Blackman the credit for the runners being there in front of him, and he really doesn't have control of that. And because he's not able to control what the runners before him do or what the batters in front of him get on base or not, then you can take this idea and abstract it more. So we can see all the possible base transitions that can happen with a single, and we can assign run values to each of them. And so if you keep going through all the combinations and then use how often these occurred on the field, then you can assign the run value of a single to be 0.47, which feels much more satisfactory, right? A single is much worse than a double, a triple, or a homer in moving runners. And this is no longer giving Blackman the credit for the runners on second and third. But of course, we're really missing the fact that this ball was almost a home run. And so there's a new way of looking at this that MLB is presenting through their StatCast system, which is through the batted ball metrics. So this batted ball had an exit velocity of 105 miles, which is very good, and a launch angle of 22 degrees. And it turns out that exit velocity and launch angle is very predictive of what will happen in the play. So if we take the measurements of Blackman's single and we look at every ball that is close to it, we can see that it being a single is actually very, very rare. It only happens 3% of the time, and that ball is a homer almost 55% of the time. And so if we take the run values of out of all of these outcomes and combine them with the probability of that happen, we can now assign a run value to Blackman's single of 0.99, which better captures the fact that this was almost a homer. And I see sports analytics as sort of like a never-ending onion where you can peel off one layer and then another layer and get closer to the truth, but you're never really there. So the baseball fans at home will observe that this happened in Coors Field, which is notoriously a big hitter's park. So we haven't controlled for that fact. We haven't controlled yet for the location of the pitch. That wasn't a very good pitch, and it was a hittable one. We haven't controlled for the count. Blackman was ahead, and so it's more likely that he will swing. We haven't controlled for how good the pitcher pitching to him is, nor the trajectory of the ball. And you can continue to think about all of these different things that you would need to control to value this action. So hopefully this has been a good introduction to how to build a sports analytic metric and how to value the actions on the field. And now Scott will tell you a little bit more about how we use analytics in player development.
Player evaluation is how analytics got its start in baseball. And like Victor was talking about earlier, that created a little bit of a bad reputation for analytics because players didn't understand how they were being evaluated. They didn't understand the data. But there's a really cool trend in recent years where players have been empowered to understand the data themselves and use it to become better players. There was a book written about this by Ben Lindbergh and Travis Sawchik called The MVP Machine. And I would encourage you to pick up that book if you're interested in learning more. I'm going to focus on developing pitchers. So pitchers have the responsibility of throwing the ball, throwing the pitch in such a way that it is difficult for the batter to hit the ball. And one of the coolest technologies in the past 100 years in baseball is pitch tracking, which we first got access to in 2007 through the PitchFX system based on computer vision. More recently, the Danish company TrackMan in 2015 replaced PitchFX with their Doppler radar system. And very recently, the English-based Hawkeye computer vision-based system has become the front runner here. What all of these pitch tracking systems do is collect data on every pitch thrown, tracking the full trajectory of the pitch, creating measurements like the release point, release velocity of the pitch. How does the ball move out of the pitcher's hand based on how the ball is spinning, and where does the pitch cross the plate? Pictured on the right here is a Rapsoda unit, yet a different technology that pitchers can use in their training sessions. That camera in the bottom right sits in front of the pitcher when he throws the pitch. and then it sends data to the iPad pictured there that the coach is holding, so that the pitcher can get immediate feedback on the metrics of the pitch that he's thrown. Where quantitative analysis comes into play is using data science to understand the relationships between these pitch metrics and what outcome we expect the pitcher to achieve. This is especially powerful when combined with another technology, high-speed video cameras. In this picture on the left, you see our star pitcher, Kenley Jansen, and to his left, there are 3 of my colleagues standing around a camera. That is an Edgertronic camera, which captures high-speed, high-fidelity video that the pitcher can then look at and actually see how is the baseball coming off his fingers to help him understand how he's creating those metrics that Rapsodo is measuring. And there's a whole field called pitch design, where pitchers will use the data, use the video to develop new pitch types or to improve the pitch types that they already throw. Taking this a step further, we can track not just the pitch, but also all of the limbs of a pitcher. And one system that does this is called Kinetrax, biomechanical motion capture. Kinetrax is a system of anywhere from 7 to 16 cameras set up around the stadium, all focused on the pitcher, using computer vision to track the pitcher's limbs throughout the delivery, producing skeletal reconstruction like you see on the right. And these data can be used to help the pitcher identify inefficiencies in his delivery or inconsistencies in his delivery from pitch to pitch. What do you think, Esteban? Do we have more, or is that a good place to end it?
I think we can do a small dive into what will come next in baseball analytics. And the post tracking is a really interesting new frontier because it gives us a much better look at what the pitchers and batters are actually doing. And so the analysis of mechanics and sort of injury prevention and the analysis of motion is something that we're very excited about and something that will come soon. With it, there is very little data about what pitchers and players do off the field and how they recovered and how to tailor that to them. And sort of related to that, there's physics-related problems about how the ball moves off of the bat and out of the hand, and how you can, for example, put 2 pitches in the same tunnel towards the plate so that they look the same for a while and then they deviate from each other, which is called pitch sequencing or pitch tunneling. And so being able to quantify these things is something that we're very excited about with the post-tracking estimate.
Scott and Esteban, it has been spectacular the way you are tracking all this data and how you are like transforming all this information in super valuable content for the managers, for the coaches, for the organization, for the doctors, the physicians. I'm totally amazed of how much information you are tracking and how you are transforming it in valuable insights. I think this is the present, but it's also the future. And Esteban, you have also pointed the new frontiers where we are heading to. And now I would like to ask you guys and ask you, Victor, how is the picture of the data analysis situation, for example, in European football, for example, in the UK football? How many clubs are doing this, and at what level are doing this? I can imagine that most of the clubs are getting at least one analyst, but after watching the Los Angeles Dodgers, it's like a big team. So how would be the picture, if you would have to describe it, of the situation, the panoramic right now in European football?
To be honest, in Premier League is a thing that is really, really interesting, the growing about the data, no? But this is like the life. It's about the life, that the Man City is investing around 3.5-4 million, and perhaps Leeds United, we only can invest 400,000. But it's normal, it's the life, it's the idea of the difference between teams, and it's normal, it's not a complaint, it's part of the reality, no? The other day, Man City make a presentation about his new data department, and obviously I am a bit envy, I need to say, because it's normal the resource that they are going to use is going to give more production in the information converting knowledge. But here, we are more in the line of the creativity. With perhaps less resource, try get more creativity useful for Leeds United. And obviously, I have a bit envy about the other clubs that Liverpool is making really well too. Again, the Americans behind, and making a lot of data analytics that is really relevant for his success. No? Then in each level, his team is investing. It's true that in the past was a situation that any teams invest and at the other no. Brentford make a massive investment in this, and now the reward of the new promotion in Premier League for first time in a lot of time history of the club is a price really big after all the investment in data that Brentford done. And then obviously in each level of his club have a different investment, but now it's not in the past that, like you say, one teams believe, on the other don't teams not believe. I feel now, not only in UK, because even in Spain, I have information about Sevilla Football Club. My old club is investing a lot, investing in a proper idea. And all the clubs in Spain have now maths analytics, even football analytics, and these kind of things. Now all the people are investing. But it's true that it's I don't know how many years of gap respect baseball, perhaps 25, 30 analysis of baseball and football. Then we are a bit down. Still, we are trying to find the road. Any person choose a road more direct with the simplest metrics. Another person is using a road more difficult, like we are trying. Another person's prefer an external provider, like a consultant for cover the data in the club. And to be honest, one of the good things about football that all the rounds can give you success. This is perhaps with baseball persons here is the sport most following in the world, because it's the most unpredictable. And this unpredictable situation looks that the data still need to be more difficult to try the circumstance to give value. But now all the clubs are invest in this. It's not one or no, all. Then in the level, the investment and the level of use this investment internal in the clubs, this is our responsibility. I believe because I respect the old style of recruitment. I was a recruiter and travel around the world with my notebook, with discovering players, with making that. But I believe in try make all together. Try create a group together of no scouts or data. No, try create the strong of my club together. And this is my obsession, and try integrate the data analytics like a part of the scouting department, living with the scouts, hearing, listen, these topics, these tips, and the other side listen to this topic, this idea. We discovered this player in second division in France. We are going to monitor. Okay, perhaps we discover we have the data, and then we watch and analyze from the human touch, the human eye. This is my way of work, and obviously it's a challenge because another clubs are make a lot of investment, but it's normal. And obviously we are really far still about the data analytics from baseball, that obviously they are a pioneers and they are the absolute reference for all the people that we love this position.
It's very interesting, Victor, because while you were talking and describing the situation, the panoramic, I was trying to imagine, for example, you are the pioneers, you are the explorers, that are the innovators, the guys that are taking things from other worlds and put it on the sport world, in the football or in baseball. And you are dealing with this gap of generations or gap of mindsets. But I'm sure that you guys are doing the most difficult work, and then the next generation will have that mix that you are looking for, Victor. I'm sure that maybe in 20 years, it's going to be pretty normal. Everything is going to be mixed together. I hope so. And I hope we can get that fabulous mix between data and the human touch that makes these sports the best in the world. Scott, we can imagine the panoramic of MLB about that almost all the clubs or every club doing related things to data analysis. But how difficult, Scott, is to run an organization that includes so many angles of data gathering and data analysis? How difficult it is to move an organization that is getting complex and more complex?
I imagine that it's incredibly difficult. You saw the diagram that we showed in our slides of Dodgers baseball operations. And if you add up the head counts in the various sub-departments, we're close to 200 people. That's a very large number of people to manage between player development and scouting and the research and development group. And I think that when it comes to making that successful, I want to reiterate what Victor said about, marrying the objective with the subjective. I think that what's so important to the Dodgers' success is it's not that we have 20 to 30 analysts and statisticians and computer scientists working on these analytics problems. But what's more important is what are those 90 player development staff doing? What are the coaches doing in the minor leagues? The coaches are the ones who are able to talk to the players and communicate to the players. And so the way that the coaches use analytics, use the data, is in some ways more important than how the analysts use the data, because they're the ones who are directly influencing the players. And my team is, quantitative analysis, Esteban and I, our team is 9 analysts right now. And we can't possibly be responsible for all of the analytics data interpretation that's being done at the Dodgers. And so that's where it's really important that we have a culture where all of the coaches, everyone in the organization has a role to play in interpreting the data, not just the analysts.
Wow, it's getting to a new level, and it's really fun at the same time, amazing and complex. So I have loved baseball all my life, and also football, and I do play-by-play in both. So it's so interesting how now the journalists, we have to be trained to analyze the new indicators, the new figures, the new numbers, in order to talk at the same language that you are talking. Thank you, Scott. Esteban, I have a question for you as well. We have right now the community of Liga MX. I'm sure that we are being watched, we are being listening by a lot of executives, maybe people that own clubs, and in first tier, maybe even second tier, in Expansión MX as well. If I would be, Esteban, the director of a football club in Mexico, low budget, maybe in Expansión MX, and I would like to get an approach of the data analysis. What would be like my first investment, like the minimum required of people in order to begin with my small and humble department, but to join you guys?
It's a very interesting question, and I think Victor answered it philosophically, right? There's 2 routes you can go. One is simply compiling as much statistical information for the decision makers in the pitch. And so that pertains to completed passes or shots attempted or style or possession, the kind of stats that you would see on a television set. But of course, that takes the statistics out of all of the context around. And that's sort of where doing baseball analytics is easier than doing soccer analytics, right? In baseball, we're able to separate and discretize every action, because a pitch happens and a pitch ends, and then a new pitch happens, and then every action is separated. Whereas in soccer, the flow just continues, right? So you can think about, for example, discretizing between a pass and a pass, but you're going to lose all of the dribbles in between, or the ball movement off the ball that is happening around the context. Or you could try to discretize the stones in the pitch and think how moving from midfield to the attacking field would give you some higher probability of scoring, but that is also sort of losing. And so there's this one route of empowering people with as much statistics as you can. And there's this other route, which is the route that Victor is taking, which is longer, right? It's about building proprietary and internal metrics that give you an edge because no one else has these metrics. And this is how you're evaluating players. And so the second approach requires a much bigger investment upfront, but the return on investment is huge. And I think the Dodgers are a pretty good example of how you can create a winning culture if you're evaluating actions and trying to quantify how much they help your team win with their 8 straight National League West Division titles and hopefully a 9th one this year, which we're trying to get. And so my answer is it depends philosophically on whether you're just trying to get some data or you're actually trying to build a data culture, because a data culture requires like a bigger team, and investing in data. Data is also very expensive in soccer.
Thank you very much, Esteban. It's great to have all these views, and for sure, yours is very valuable, Esteban, because you come from Mexico City, you studied here, you know the environment of the sports industry, and it's very valuable to have your insights. Maybe a couple of questions more before finishing. Victor, in terms of the future, the present and the future, I would ask you, do you have to spend a lot of time training your players, your footballers, in order to understand what you are doing? Are you taking some of this information or some of this language to the players? Are they receiving this new way of watching the way they play? Are they receiving this? Do we have to train the players more?
Well, to be honest, they are really open. You know why? Because at the end, the evaluation of the player is anything that you can discuss in the subjective way that you play bad, and the player say,
Yeah.
Why? And you say, no, look the video, and by example, look your physical data in the last 10 games and looks today. And then the player say, obviously, it's unrealistic. Or look your passing distribution, the 15 games, and looks the last month. And, and to be honest, I feel they are open. At least in my team, I feel that they are realistic, open to try evaluating themselves in the objective way that allow them to grow. And even like they discuss, amazing, the graphic that they show was incredible about his weaknesses, that say, no, I don't have this weakness. No, you have this weakness, because look the average in the league of the same player in the same position and look your numbers. You are lower the average, then you have awareness because you are not cope the average of the league, no? And this kind of thing, for me, the players in my field, they are open because at the end, they know that it's his own benefit, like we know, performance, contracts, why not call up from the national teams if you play well, and these kind of things. I feel really proud, to be honest. If you are, by example, we are really trending in Twitter in England about our physical level, no? Our number of sprints. The other day was a tweet in about Leeds United sprints. I think the second position of the teams in Premier League was 320 less sprints than us. And to be honest, I feel proud. And then now we finished 9th position, and was a really, for a new promoted team, we are really proud. We can say, lads, the work have reward, and you prove that you run a lot and you run more the others, and then the reward is finished in 9th position. These kind of things give credibility to the staff, to the head coach, and to the scouting and director of football to say, we get. And it's not like we discuss a really good comment, the philosophical point of view about the data. No, the practical data, the qualitative data. And then the player feels sure that all the things that he's making have an evaluation. And in my case, I feel that they are really open. It's true that in football, the data is practically new. For me, one of the things that I feel really upset, that perhaps when I am going to retire, because I was now 17 years in football, I am really tired a bit of agents, discussions, right? And a lot of things I make a kidding. But when I am going to be retired, perhaps start the real revolution in football in data. Why? For the time taking the data. Because in football, the real data is going to take the last 5 years. And then imagine that it's two persons here that I should read the book, The Signal and the Noise, the Nate Silver, that 100 years taking the weather and still the forecaster of weather making mistakes. Say tomorrow rain and not raining. No, because the data say now they are magic, because now say 70% rain, and if the rain is 30%, come on, you always win. But okay, now with the percentage of rain, they won the battle. But back to this, my Philip said that I think the real revolution of data is when in football is taking serious data around 20, 25 years, 30 years, and the background of this data is going to create real patterns of performance in teams, individual roles, and individual players will be the real revolution. Perhaps I will enjoy this from outside in Cancun with you, taking a drink and talking the data in another place, because obviously 20 years more in football, I am not staying. Then I am going to enjoy the real revolutionary of data in football when we get the data in quality like we make in 20, 25 years, in my opinion.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant, Victor. And while you were talking, I was thinking about the sports journalists. You were a journalist as well. And now I'm just like thinking that we have to get into that as well in order to have better analysis, more objective analysis, in order to have a better knowledge and better information and better stories as well. Thank you very much, Victor. Scott and Esteban, your final thoughts about this great session that we have had together. What would you recommend for all the community of Liga MX in terms of embracing data analysis? Maybe it's a topic that people may be scared of, or keeping distance of too much numbers, a lot of mathematics. We like the game, we like the fun of the game, but now this is the present and it's gonna change. The game has new rules for sure. I'm part of those rules. Scott, and your final thoughts, Esteban. Thank you.
Esteban, could you start us off?
Yeah, of course. So I think the success of data-driven organizations sort of speaks for itself. I know Victor mentioned Liverpool, but you can keep going. Barcelona have a huge innovation hub. Arsenal have made a really big investment in data-driven. And of course, Brentford, who has Bernardo Cueva, who worked for Chivas before joining Brentford, is now a Premier League team. And their story is just simply fantastical of how they built a data-driven culture to make it to the Premier League, and sort of how they got there. And so I think that as an organization, whether in sports or outside, you want to make the best decisions that you can. And I think the best decisions that you can make moving forward include data. And like Victor said, and like Scott reiterated, this is not a data versus non-data fight. It's about taking as many perspectives as you can and including them into making a holistic decision that's better and builds you a more competitive team, and ultimately a more successful product on the pitch, and a more fun sport that we all love watching and playing as well. And so I think the future of data in sports is bright and is just getting started. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be in this sphere. And maybe I'll join Victor in 40 years in Cancun, and we'll discuss how much everything has changed in retrospect. I'll hand it off to you, Scott.
I think that's really well said. The thing that I really like about how data enhances these discussions is fans love to argue about which player is better. In basketball, is Michael Jordan the greatest of all time, or is it LeBron James? And those conversations are inherently subjective with a lot of different factors to consider. And what's really cool about data and analytics is that it's another factor to consider. It's another argument to bring to the table to make these discussions more colorful, more flavorful.
Scott, thank you very much. Esteban, thank you very much. It has been great to get all the knowledge that MLB and Los Angeles Dodgers, world champion organization, has done in the last years, the best practices, and all this is going to be very, very valuable for all the community of Liga MX. Thank you very much. I admire your careers, guys, and the hard work that you have put in the universities, studying a lot, and also in the field now, taking all that theories and mathematics and analytics to a beautiful game that I love, such as baseball. Thank you very much. Victor, your last thoughts. I would ask you specifically, because you have told us a lot of recommendations, but in terms of the guys, the sports executives that want to build a career on the sports industry, what would you tell them with all the experience that you have, Victor?
For me, one of the things about be executive or director of football or anything is a lot of, obviously, formation, education, but a lot of self-teaching, because it's a range in my position. You need to know anything from laws, because you make contracts, rules, etc. You need to know technical, because it's still new. You need to know about big data. You need to know about human resource. You need to know about technical of negotiations. You need to know a management staff. It's a position that perhaps you are not to be a par specialist, or like another great book say that is range. You need to have a perspective really, really big about a lot of things. And then obviously this is about education, about formation, this kind of courses, self-teaching, a lot of be open. This is another thing that more times in football, we are cowards. Be open to read books from baseball. I read 2 or 3. I remember one league that his name is Scoring, that to be honest, the first 20 pages was absolutely horrible, because I don't understand anything. About the 50, I understood one thing that gave me a concept. You know what concept gave me this book in baseball? That I need to know my scouts. Why? Because perhaps I have a scout really good watching defenders, and perhaps I have a scout really watching wingers. And then I need to determine how is the level of my internal scoring with my scout in terms of knowledge of an analysis. That is another way of analysis. And then these kind of things, be open, because more time in football, we are the classical that only watch that. No, we need to open mentality to grow, obviously with the power of football give in a lot of sense, and be open of this kind of knowledge, because it's not you are going in another teams now. It's not in the pitch, it's the battle, but outside the pitch is another battle, because respect my challenge. In the past, when I started to work in Sevilla, the goal will be the first in information. Now, not happen. Now all the people have the information. Now the challenge is how use this information. And it's a proper challenge that we need to have a lot of responsibility in like executive in football to try win and give the best to your club.
It's fantastic, fantastic, Victor. There's a game outside the football pitch or the baseball field. There's another game, and you guys are playing brilliant. Thank you very much, Víctor Orta, football director of Leeds United, Scott Powers, quantitative analysis director of Los Angeles Dodgers, Esteban Navarro, quantitative analyst of Los Angeles Dodgers. Thank you very much for sharing all your experience, knowledge, and success. It is very valuable for the community of Liga MX, and you are helping to build a better sports industry around the world. You mentioned, guys, 2 times, Cancun, 25 years. So maybe we can set up a meeting, 2046, in 25 years. I hope everyone is retired, me as well, and we can organize the summit of Liga MX over there in Cancun in 2046. Thank you very much, guys.
Next year, or next year.
Or next year as well. Next year as well. But Cancun is also very good in 25 years. Thank you very much, Victor, Scott, and Esteban. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I'm looking forward to it.
Wherever you are, all the community of Somos Liga MX Summit. Long life to this event. Thank you very much to the Liga MX for inviting me. I'm Antonio Rosique. See you soon, guys.
Gracias, Toño. Un excelente desempeño en inglés por parte de Toño Rosique. Y en este caso, Sara, qué interesante la forma biomecánica en que se analiza el deporte del béisbol, un deporte un poco más estático, a diferencia de la dinámica, de la fluidez, de la continuidad que tiene un deporte como el fútbol, que también tiene sus azares con respecto al movimiento de un balón que puede en un momento dado cambiar lo previsto y el rumbo de un partido y un marcador y una copa y una temporada. Pero muy interesante esta forma de poner sobre la mesa tanto la manera de analizar el béisbol como el fútbol soccer.
Sí, cada deporte tiene sus especificaciones, pero lo interesante es convertir datos en información y en conocimiento. Eso, por supuesto, que es el objetivo de todos. Lo han logrado los Dodgers a través de la famosa sabermetría que utilizaron mucho en la Serie Mundial el año anterior, y es simplemente el fútbol lo ha empezado a hacer sobre todo en temas físicos, no tanto en estadísticas o en estilo de juego, pero sí en el rendimiento físico. Ahí se ha visto mucho los datos en el fútbol.
Y de hecho los Dodgers llevan 3 o 4 años repuntando históricamente, lo que no habían conseguido estos jugadores y esta escuadra tan querida en México, por cierto, de los Dodgers en todas las décadas anteriores. Cuando aquellos años 80 eran los representativos de aquel equipo ganador con un mexicano muy emblemático como Fernando Valenzuela, pero esto está dando resultado evidentemente en los resultados de los Dodgers en las últimas temporadas.
Así que ya analizamos los datos, ya conocimos un poco el negocio del Citigroup y también el fútbol en ambos hemisferios, pero falta hablar, por supuesto, del fútbol femenil, y eso tendremos al volver de la pausa, así que no se muevan.